This is the Gospel America Television Network, broadcasting worldwide on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and online at www.gospelamerica.net. Download our app from the App Store or from Google Play and watch us on your tablet or smartphone 24 hours a day.
Welcome to a special edition of Real Talk with the Jenkins. Lady MJ is away this week, but you've got Dr. G, Dr. Gary Jenkins. And now, let's join Real Talk with the Jenkins. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Real Talk with the Jenkins. I'm Gary Jenkins. Now, this week, we're talking about the U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. Something that has evoked emotions all across the country, especially among veterans and also among federal employees. It is something that it's really kind of sad, from my point of view, to see how America has left the country and all of the work that was done over the years has now been taken over by the Taliban. We were in Afghanistan for 20 years. Billions of dollars spent, thousands of lives have been lost, and now we pull out, and the very enemy we were fighting has now taken over the country. And in the midst of all of this is the evacuation of Americans and some Afghans from the country. We're going to talk about what this means and how do you feel about it. We'll find out more on the next Real Talk with the Jenkins.
Real Talk with the Jenkins will be right back after this commercial break.
My name is Travis with Grace Transmissions. Here at Grace Transmissions, we have a reputation for customer service, and we've been serving the San Angelo area for over 45 years. Our focus is you, the customer. So whether you need a diagnostic check or a complete transmission service repair, we're here for you. Grace Transmissions, where service meets quality, and that's our #1 priority.
We're here when you need us.
Grace Transmissions, 1202 Pulliam Street, San Angelo. And now back to Real Talk with MJ and Dr. G.
We're back, and we're talking about the U.S. evacuation that is taking place in Afghanistan and what it really means. Now, we have a special guest with us today. You know him as the president of the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce, Walt Koenig, but he's also a very interesting individual with a powerful background. He is a former U.S. State Department employee with experience in Afghanistan. And I want to certainly welcome you, Walt, to Real Talk with the Jenkins.
You know, I'm awfully honored to be here this morning, and I really appreciate all the great work you all do for our community, and thank you for this opportunity to discuss what is a very, I think, very important topic.
Well, let's talk about it. We've been in Afghanistan for 20 years, and I thought we were making some good progress there, and emotions are running all over the place from people. How do you feel about what's happened in Afghanistan and what America's role has been?
Well, it's been a very sobering time for myself and my wife. We both served in Afghanistan. I served for 4 years as a senior commercial officer from 2011 to 2015, and subsequent to that I also was on a bank board for the Afghan Commercial Bank. So we have pretty deep ties, know a lot of people, and we've been getting a lot of conversation and communication from our friends in Afghanistan who are very desperate to get out. So it's a very raw time for us, frankly. It's a very difficult time, and it's a time for reflection and contemplation as well. I think the outcome was unforeseen by all, including our government, and I think that that's unfortunate. And I think a lot of the trade-offs that we've seen in a historical context will be looked at for a very long time, and not in a particularly positive way.
Well, you know, many years ago, I was in Vietnam, an 18-year-old, turned 19 in Vietnam in 1970, 71, came back, 1975, we see the U.S. pullout from Saigon, helicopters being tossed into the ocean, people climbing on the roofs of the U.S. Embassy there. Do you see similarities between what happened in Afghanistan with what happened in Vietnam years ago?
I think we're more challenged, frankly, in this situation. We have over 10,000 Americans that are still in country. We did not see that in Vietnam. In Vietnam, it was mostly about the evacuation of the embassy, and that was difficult. I am very, very concerned, as I have friends and colleagues who are also still in Afghanistan as Americans, and the very short timeline that we currently have advertised and the logistics challenge and the dependence, frankly, on the Taliban to support the evacuation all cause me great concern. We can't leave any of the Americans behind. I'm starting to hear from our government a commitment towards getting them out, which I hadn't heard for the last few days, which was very concerning. We don't leave Americans behind, and we've got to get them out. And so in many respects, I see it more challenging than, frankly, the evacuation of Saigon in the 70s.
So when I see the image that we have behind us of the Air Force jet on the tarmac of Kabul airport, and thousands of Afghans are trying to cling to this jet while it's taking off, it left an image in our minds that of something that is sheer desperation and horror. Your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good way to characterize what we saw. That was very difficult for anyone to see. I do know, and I think Afghanistan's underappreciated and understood in terms of the kind of country it is. It's a very diverse culture. There's over 50 different tribes and cultures within the Afghan country. And all of those folks, with few exceptions, are freedom-loving, wanting people who want to create good lives for their families and prosper economically. Their fear of the Taliban is justified. It's a very difficult and challenged regime, and to see that level of desperation was very difficult to watch. I'm working on my emotion right now just thinking about it. I've been through Kabul airport hundreds of times, literally, over my 5 years of service in Afghanistan. It's a difficult place under the best of circumstances. The logistics there are tough, and to egress out of there is always very, very challenging, as I said, even under the best of times. I have been in contact with many of my friends and colleagues who are Afghans in country right now, and they are afraid.
You've been in contact with them recently?
Over the last days, I have been in contact with scores of them. Telephone service is still available. I did have a very large network of friends and associations and colleagues there over my 5 years that were established, and they had my phone number. I've kept the same phone number. So we have been able to stay in touch. And it's for me, as a former senior government official, very frustrating in that I'm helpless to help them. Aside from giving them prayers and giving them my personal support, it's very, very, very difficult.
And I understand this is very kind of emotional for you. You have friends there, as you've already stated, in Afghanistan who their lives are in danger right now.
They are indeed, yes.
So what is the United States doing? Have you gotten any word on what the current administration is doing as far as helping the Afghans, especially those who work with the U.S. government as interpreters or any other position during our stay there?
Well, my contacts and understanding are not unique to what anyone could see in the media, frankly, from the U.S. government side. Communications from the U.S. government in terms of future planning and process are frighteningly to me scarce and non-specific. I would have hoped to have seen a more comprehensive set of plans in terms of not only evacuating our 10,000 citizens, but also probably 4 times that in terms of numbers of people who have supported us and put their own lives at risk through doing so. We made commitments to these people. I made them personally. in terms of their security over the long term. We need to make good on that. And frankly, the logistics challenges we're facing, given the very abrupt and unexpected turn of events, is concerning and challenging. I have seen that the administration's talking about extending the deadline beyond the end of the month. That's a good development if it can happen. But again, our reliance on the Taliban to support that process causes me grave concern.
We'll talk about your concerns in a moment. We're talking about the U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan, the whole evacuation process, and what it means for the Afghan people. What does it mean for veterans who gave their lives to defend the freedom of the Afghan people? We'll be back in a moment.
Real Talk with the Jenkins will be right back after this commercial break.
My name is Travis with Grace Transmissions. Here at Grace Transmissions, we have a reputation for customer service, and we've been serving the San Angelo area for over 45 years. Our focus is you, the customer. So whether you need a diagnostic check or a complete transmission service repair, we're here for you. Grace Transmissions, where service meets quality, and that's our #1 priority.
We are here when you need us.
Gray's Transmissions, 1202 Pulliam Street, San Angelo. And now back to Real Talk with MJ and Dr. G.
We're back, and my special guest is Walt Koenig. He is, of course, the president of the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. But guess what? He's also a former U.S. State Department official, high-ranking over in Afghanistan. You were there for how many years?
I was with the government for 4 years, and then in the private sector for a year. I served on the board of the Afghan Commercial Bank, as well as working as a consultant in economic development.
Okay, so you were there for 5 years or more.
Yeah, 5 years. Yeah.
5 years, and you've developed a lot of contacts, developed friendships in Afghanistan, and that's what most of us do when we're in different countries. But let's talk about something else. As you know, thousands of Americans gave their lives for this war over a 20-year period. I don't have all of the figures right now, but
It's over 2,000.
It's over 2,000.
Yeah.
And many other veterans have come back wounded, their lives totally changed. What's your take on all of this as far as the veterans, the men and women who were there serving our country? Some of them, according to what I've heard from talking to veterans, some of them are extremely annoyed. Some have even had thoughts of suicide, which is a terrible tragedy in itself, that they felt that their lives and that what they did was a waste of time. And I'm not going to certainly say it was a waste of time, but I'm going to say that it was very disheartening from a combat veteran point of view. What's your take on that?
Well, my position in Afghanistan afforded me the opportunity to travel throughout the country. I went to all the major military bases over my time there, including Kandahar, Bagram. I was in Mazar al-Sharif, Herat. I saw all the soldiers from all the countries. What people, I think, forget is there was a great deal of coalition. Over 40 countries were there, including Italy, Germany, France, Canada, and many, many others. All these soldiers were highly professional, brought to the fight a great deal of honor and capability. And in that regard, it changed me personally by being able to work with such a great group of professionals. I became a better person. As far as how people feel about this outcome, I myself go from anger to sadness. I'm sure that many of my military colleagues are in the same space. One narrative I want to kill immediately, and I hear it from time to time, is 20 years and we got nothing out of that. I absolutely disagree wholeheartedly. We did not have another 911 in 20 years. Had we done nothing and had we not been in Afghanistan, I'm very confident we would have seen more attacks on the homeland. So keeping the attacks from happening in the homeland was one of the main missions. That was carried out with great professionalism and competence. We did also do a great deal in terms of raising awareness of the women issues in Afghanistan. I know of many, many great professionals, females who have risen up. Some are still in country, many are not, but they are contributing to a greater understanding of the world, and that would never have happened without our efforts. The outcome is sad and disappointing, but the process was honorable and it was correct, and it kept us safe.
Well, I think, Walt, that we had to go to Afghanistan because of Osama bin Laden. Mm-hmm. We did finish the mission to eliminate him and the threat to our nation at that time. However, I believe that the 20 years that we spent, the billions of dollars that we spent, and then I look at the news and I see on television the same thing that I saw in Vietnam. The equipment that was supposed to be given to the Afghans is in the hands of the Taliban. How do we, I can't even wrap my brain around that. Here they have access to sophisticated equipment, which makes them a more volatile force than ever before. And who's to say that they won't use that in the future against us at some point?
Well, the hardware and technologies that were left behind will be used to our disservice, without a doubt. And that's a hugely regrettable outcome, and one that we will be looking at how to deal with over not only the next days, weeks, but years to come. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned again about the 10,000 Americans that are still left behind. And all these things we need to resolve in a positive way as a nation. And we need plans from our leadership on how we're going to make that happen. And I'm looking forward to seeing those, because we have to do that.
Well, speaking of the 10,000 Americans that are still there, President Biden has already indicated that he is going to extend the deadline past the end of August to ensure that we provide a safe evacuation for those Americans. He even stated that he contacted the Taliban asking them to help Americans get to the airport, because there are Americans still outside of the safe perimeter of Kabul airport. Do you really think the Taliban is going to honor that?
You know, for those of you who've never been to Kabul, and that's most of you, I'm sure, it's a city of 5+ million people. There's not a major road in the whole town. There's no highways. It's incredibly challenging to get through that town under the best of circumstances. Put on the Taliban checkpoints and the increasing challenges of getting through those for all people, I'm very concerned about that. Trust the Taliban? No, I don't. I don't believe we do either, frankly. Asking them for help to get our people out is a very frightening set of circumstances, in my judgment. And this is my biggest area of concern, frankly, at the moment, is how are we going to get our people out?
One of the weakest links in U.S. foreign policy that I have observed over the years is just that. When we are in a bind of getting our Americans out of a dangerous country, we seem to just drop the ball. And not only do we put our own citizens in danger, but the people who have helped Americans, whether they were in Vietnam, whether in Korea, whether here in Afghanistan, the people who helped Americans complete their mission in Afghanistan, they are now targets of the Taliban.
They are indeed.
And the Taliban has made it clear that they're going to execute these people who they consider as traitors to Afghanistan. And America has it doesn't have a policy in place, a contingency plan, where we automatically have coverage protection for the local people who help us in foreign countries.
Yeah, my wife was with me the last 2 years we were in Afghanistan, and she worked in the consular section of the embassy, and her job was vetting those who were qualified for this special immigrant visa, or the SIV program. That program was in place for a long time, where we took people who had served us and who felt at risk, and we got them out of the country with their families and established them in the United States. The issue now is that there's just, because of the rapidity of the collapse and the backlog of processing of those people, there's just a lot of folks that are still there that are qualified under that program and are unable to leave due to logistics or due to process. We need to fix that. There's talk of refugee programs. I was just researching. Canada has just come up with a refugee program where we can expedite and get folks out quickly. We still have to be careful about getting the right people out. We don't want to import terrorists into our country, but at the same time there's urgency because lives are at stake, and the lives of people who've served us well with confidence that we would live up to our commitments are at grave risk, and we have to fix that.
But in follow-up to that, my thinking is that if we are going to hire locals in foreign countries to work with our government, shouldn't there be a system in place that says, okay, in the event of a disaster such as this, when we evacuate the embassy, when we evacuate the Americans in that country, you're included automatically in that process. Why can't we do that? I fail to understand why that cannot be done if you're vetting people, bringing them in as employees into the U.S. Embassy or other locations to support American troops and the American government there. Why in God's name can we not have a mechanism in place that protects those people or that guarantees them evacuation in the event of a disaster or in the event of death by those who would try to kill them?
The number of Afghans that supported our effort over that amount of time is great. Some were involved for a while and aren't involved now, but still culpable or still vulnerable under this new regime. Some worked for contractors who supported us, not directly for the embassy or the military. Some worked directly for the military, some worked directly at the embassy. Some are family members of those who supported us. There's a lot of different relationships and a lot of different categories, all of whom are at risk in this condition.
And that's where we're going to leave. We want to thank you for taking the time to be with us on Real Talk with the Jenkins, the special edition reaction.
Well, I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to tell a story, and I'm very grateful for the great service you all give to our community. Thank you for that.
And we thank you, sir, for your service, both abroad as well as here at home.
Well, thank you very much.
In a moment, some final thoughts on the U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Real Talk with the Jenkins will be right back after this commercial break.
My name is Travis with Grace Transmissions. Here at Grace Transmissions, we have a reputation for customer service, and we've been serving the San Angelo area for over 45 years. Our focus is you, the customer. So whether you need a diagnostic check or a complete transmission service repair, we're here for you. Grace Transmissions, where service meets quality, and that's our #1 priority.
We are here when you need us.
Gray's Transmissions, 1202 Pulliam Street, San Angelo. And now back to Real Talk with MJ and Dr. G.
And we're talking about the U.S. troop withdrawal and the evacuation of American forces and personnel from Afghanistan. I certainly want to thank our special guest, Walt, president of the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce, but who also served for 5 years in Afghanistan, 4 years with the U.S. Department of State as a senior official there in Afghanistan, and then with the commercial bank for another year. And so he has a lot of experience and has a lot of friends who he's been contacting, and we're praying that the people of Afghanistan will remain safe in the midst of the Taliban takeover. But my final thought is this. To me, This is reminiscent of 1975 in Saigon in Vietnam, when the United States evacuated its embassy. And under President Nixon, he ordered the withdrawal of all U.S. forces. The withdrawal process was so rapid that the troops were withdrawn, but not the equipment. Helicopters thrown in the ocean, weapons systems given to the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese that later were used in other aggressive actions. Now, fast forward to 2021. Here we are in Afghanistan, finishing up a 20-year-long war. Thousands of lives have been lost, and many Americans were there, men and women, supporting our mission there. There were some good things that were done, and yes, the evacuation, to me, was a tragic failure of U.S. foreign policy. However, we're not going to leave on a negative note. I have hope that what happened in Vietnam in 1975, after 1975, after the fall of Saigon, I believe that there is a possibility that something good can come out of what happened in Afghanistan. Who's to say that we can't have normal relations established with the Taliban? Who's to say that we can't reestablish our embassy in Afghanistan? Who's to say that we can't have a commercial trade going on with Afghanistan? As a Vietnam veteran, I look at the normal relations between the United States and Vietnam, and I'm amazed at the turnaround and the attitude that has changed over the years. I hope that attitude will change for Afghanistan and the United States. And I hope that our veterans, some who fought and died, paid the ultimate sacrifice, will always be appreciated and honored. And those men and women who returned home from combat, know that your service is greatly appreciated, and we thank you.
Broadcasting worldwide to every nation, this is the Gospel America Television Network. Broadcasting to every nation on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and online at gospelamerica.net.